Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to our YouTube channel. My name is Victoria Gutierrez, and I'm an attorney here at Goa, Rona and Thompson. GRT offers many services related to elder abuse, wrongful death, and or personal injury matters. So if you need legal advice or if you have a loved one in a nursing facility, we would love to provide you legal counsel. Today, we are going to be discussing the 7 signs of elder abuse, which includes physical abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, neglect, sexual abuse, abandonment, and self-neglect. Now, going into the first sign of elder abuse is actually physical abuse. Now, there's both physical and behavioral signs to look out for. So, for instance, related to the physical signs, there could be marks on their wrists, on their neck, on their body in some place. So please keep track of that. A behavioral indicator or sign is frequent trips to the restroom, frequent trips to the emergency room, any sort of changes in behavior, which would indicate that they're now fearful or they no longer want to engage or tell you things that's happening at the nursing facility. Those are all signs to keep track of. The next thing is emotional abuse. Now, emotional abuse, again, there's both emotional signs as well as behavioral signs. As far as emotional signs go, it usually includes unusual withdrawal. So normally you'd be there with your loved one, speaking to them, and they're not really, paying attention or engaging or asking questions. Those are all things to keep in mind. Also, sudden changes in alertness. So say, for instance, you're talking to them and they're laughing and then all of a sudden they turn around and space off. Then that's a sign to keep track of. A behavioral sign is somebody, your elder now showing any sort of agitation. If they're quick to be defensive, those could all be signs that they're now being emotionally abused at this nursing facility. The third sign is financial abuse. So if a contractor or one of the staff members or somebody else who may seem inappropriate now starts asking you or your loved one for banking information, for credit debit card information, probing into questions as, do you have a savings account? Do you have a retirement account? Those are all red flags that you need to keep track of to make sure that your loved one's financial stability is safe. Any sort of behavioral signs include unpaid bills. So now all of a sudden, that your loved one is in a nursing home and they're receiving, bills for any type of loan they took out, which they didn't take out a loan. Or now they're being asked to pay this new, PG&E bill or whatever it may be. Those are definitely signs to keep track of. The next type of elder abuse is sexual abuse, which is very sensitive. It's a very sensitive topic, but things to look out for are, again, any sort of indications that there were any injuries on the wrists, on the neck, on their body, on their legs, on their ankles, any type of venereal disease that they may now be having, any sort of genital infections. And in this case, going to the bathroom more frequently. Those are all things you need to keep track of to make sure your elder is safe at their nursing facility. Behavioral signs include torn or stained clothing, bloody clothing, any sort of inappropriate sexual behavior or comments that they're now making that they never made before. Those can all be indicators that potentially your loved one is being sexually abused. Now, the next type of elder abuse sign is neglect. This can include dehydration, malnutrition. You notice that now all of a sudden they, their teeth aren't being brushed, they're having dirty nails, any sort of health problems that keep coming up, such as, pink eye or some sort of other tract infection, something like that. Behavioral indicators is now the elder and your loved one is appearing unkept. So if it's hot outside and they have on a hoodie or sweater, or vice versa, if it's freezing outside and they have on a tank top, then that's something to keep track of because, their clothing should match the weather. The next sign of elder abuse is abandonment. Now, this is when the elder is left in a public place. So if there's an open common area and say you go and you visit the elder at 7 a.m., and then at 11 a.m. you come back and visit them and they're still in the same place, then that is definitely a red flag because the elder should not be left in the same space for so long. The next type of elder abuse is self-neglect. Now, this includes inadequate food if they no longer want to eat, shelter, clothing, if now all of a sudden they don't want to be kept warm when it's clearly very cold inside the facility or outside the facility. If they're unwilling to cooperate in taking their medication, those types of things, that could indicate that your elder is being self-neglectful. And that's something you want to consider because we want our loved ones to be safe and cared for while they're in a nursing facility. As I mentioned before, GOA Rona and Thompson is here to help you through this difficult process. We want to ensure that elders are taken care of. And the number one piece of advice I can give you is to document. So if you notice something's out of place, if you notice an injury on your loved one, if you notice the bathroom hasn't been cleaned, please take note of that. It could be in your notebook. You can take photos of it. You can even type it in your phone on your notes section because you want to document everything that's taking place to make sure that later on, if a lawsuit needs to be ensued, then you will go ahead and provide that documentation at that time. Take care.